Hello friends, my name is Akbar Kautik and we will start with our another chapter, our next chapter. The next chapter is our chapter of 8, the the source of power. This chapter is about the power, the source of power. So we will going to learn about it and learn that how does he work, it works. So let's start with this chapter. The ultimate object of the investigation is the ultimate object of our investigation is the partial understanding rather than the academic or philosophical one. Although the certain philosophical conclusion can immediately be drawn from the even a brief analysis of the power and force from the particular viewpoint. Before processing we need to know about that what the strict source of the power is and how it operates, what the account of its greater strength, why is it there that force always eventually succumbs to the power. In this respect, the conclusion of the United States can provide a rewarding study. These documents celebrate about the 700 if one goes one goes through it sentence by the sentence, the source of its power appears. It's the concept that all men are created equal by the virtue of the divinity. Their certain human certain human rights are the instructive human creation. Therefore, incredible Interestingly enough is the very concept of the source of the power of the Mahatma Gandhi. Power versus force. On the examination, we will see that power arises from the meaning. It has to do with the motive and has to do with the principle. Power is always associated with that which support the significance of the life itself. It appears to that part of the human nature that we call noble in contrast to force, which is appeal to that which we call cars. Power appeals to which unfilled, dignified, and the ignoble. Force must always justify whether power requires no justification. Force is associated with the particle power with the whole. If we analyze the nature of force, it becomes readily apparent why it must be always succumb to the power. This is accordant with one of the basic law of the physics. Because force automatically creates a counter force, its effect is limited by the definition. We could say that force is moment. It goes from here to there. Against opposition power of other hand is still it's like a standing field that does doesn't move gravity itself. For the instance doesn't move against anything. Its power moves all objects within its field. But the gravity field itself does not move. Force always move against something where the power doesn't move against anything at all. Force is the incomplete and therefore has be fed energy constantly. Power is a total completed in itself. The requirement of nothing from outside. It makes to demands its no needs. Because the force has an insatiable appetite appetite it's constantly consume a power. It in contrast energies give force supplies and the supports. Power gives life and energy. Force take this away. We notice that power is associated with the compassion of the makes us feel positively about ourselves. Force is associated with the judgment and makes us feel poorly about ourselves. Force always created the counterforce itself, effect to polarize rather than unify. Polarization always amplify conflict. It cost therefore is always high become force is incipient the polarization in the investigation products a win or lose dichotomy and the because of the somebody always loses enemies are the created constantly flexed with the enemies. Force required constant defense defensive in the is investable costly whether in the marketplaces, politics or the international affairs. In looking for the source of power, we've, we've noted that it's associated with the meaning and this meaning has to do with the significance of life itself. Force is connected, illiterate, and the arguable. It's required proof and support. The source of the power, however, are immutable and aren't subject to proof. The self-evident isn't arguable that health is more important than disease, that the life is more important than death, that honor is preferable to the dishonor, that faith and the truth are preferable to the doubt and Christmas, that the constructive is the perfectible, the destructive, all are self-evident statements not subject to proof. Ultimately, the only thing we can say about the source of power is that it just is. Every civilization is characterized by the native principles. If the principle of the civilization are noble success, if they selfish, if false, it falls as the term principle may sound abstract, but the consequences of the principle are quite concert. If we examine the principles, we see that they resident in the invisible realms with the consciousness itself. Although we can point out the example of honesty in the world, honesty itself and self as an organizing the principle central to the civilization does not inherently exist anywhere in the external world. True power then emanates from the consciousness itself. Where what we see is the visible manifestation of the invisible. Pride, nobility of the purpose, and sacrifice of the quality of life, all such things are the considerable in in inspiration giving the life significance. But what actually impresses us in the physical world are things that symbolize the concept with the powerful meaning of us. Such symbol religion our motive with the abstract principle. A symbol can mensural great power become of the principle that earlier reside within the consciousness. Meaning is so important that when life loses meaning, the suicidal commonly ensure. When life losing meaning, we first go into the depression. When life becomes sufficiently maintain meaningless, we leave it altogether. Force has transparent goals. When those goals are reached and the emptiness of the meaninglessness remains, power on the other hand motivates us the endlessly. If your life are dedicated for the instance to enhancing where the weather of the everyone we contact, our lives can never lose meaning. If the purpose of life on the other hand is the facial success, what happened after it's being attained? This is one of the primary cases of the depression in middle-aged men and women. The disillusionment that empathize the comes from the feeling to align one of one's life within the principle from the which power originated. Useful inclusions of this phenomena can be seen in the lives of the grand musician, compressed in the conductor of the own times. How frequently they continue productive careers into the 80s and 90s, often having a children and living a variously util a rip old age. Their lives have been dedicated to the creation and the embodiment of the beauty, which is incorporate and expressed in enormous power of we know clinically that alignment with the beauty is associated with the long active and the vigor because the beauty is the function of the creativity. Such longevity is the common in all creative assumption. New paradigms. The philosophic position of the positivism based on the prime that nothing is the real expect in the qualifiable is native the science. The source of power, however, are invisible and the incredible. The faculty of the logical implements it's clear from the essential primes. To say that nothing is real unless it's measurable in is the already an abstract position is not. This proposition itself isn't triangable, visible, or measurable. The argument of the triangulability is itself created from the incredible. Even if even if the such position were valid, who would want to live without pride, honor, love, composition, or valor? Despite the pathetic implication of this argument, let's address in its negative. Nevertheless, does the power have any triangulable basis? Does it proceed exclusively from the undefinable and the mystical, philosophic, spiritual of the abstract? Is there anything more we can know about power that would make sense to those who are oriented only that left brain world, which, regardless of the consumption satisfactions, remain only the system of the mechanically measurement. Before we proceed, let's remind our lives that most advanced artificial intelligence mechanisms in the world are unable to feel the joy of happiness. Force can bring satisfaction, but only power brings joy. Victory over other brings us the satisfaction, but victory over ourselves brings us joy. But as previous chapter have shown, not only can these quantities now measured them, they can be assuredly celebrated to make this fact more compressible to the reasons. Let's continue our tour through the some easily understood concept from the advanced theoretical physics. We we need we don't need be the eliminated by these concepts to the country their implements for the daily life through the profound and the quite simple. We don't have to understand the molecular structure of the rubber in order to benefit from the having tires of our on our cars, even though their proofs may be complex. Estimates, theory of the relativity, Bell's theorem, and so on can all be stated in few easily understandable sentences. Several recently defined the concept having the relevance in understanding the nature of power. On the physics, David Bohm's theory, which stands thereof there is both a visible and invisible universe. This idea shouldn't be donating many things that we have daily familiar with, such as X-ray radio waves and the TV waves, aren't visible either. An unaffordable universe runs parallel to the visible, unfolded universe, which is itself merely a manifestation of that unfolded, invisible universe. Thus, for an intense did the idea of the building the world's tallest building really supports. Eventually, the result was that invisible concept become the Empire State Building in the visible world. The unfolded universe is the concept with human consciousness as the inspiration arise in the mind of a creators. Holmes says the meaning of links mind and matter like opposite side of the coins. Another useful concept is Rupert's Sildrags and the nations of the morphogenic fields of or M fields. These invisible organizing patterns act like energy templates to establish from the on various level of life. It's because of the discontinuous and of the M fields that identical represented representation of the specific are profound. Something similar to the M field also exists in the energy field of the consciousness. Underlying through the pattern and the images a phenomena of the term, term formative casuation, the idea that M field association learning has been verified by the wild scale experiment expectation. When the Sir Rob Bannister broke the 4 minutes mile, he created a new M field. The belief the system prevailing in human consciousness had been that the 4 minutes mile limits of human positively once the new M field was created. Many runners suddenly become a run sub 4 minutes miles. This is occur every time mankind break into the new paladins whether it's the capacity of fly. On the capacity of the fly, recover from the alcoholic on some M field created everyone who respect the accomplishment reinforce the power of that M field. We're all familiar with the fact that new ideas often seems to arise in the mild midness of the several far removed from the same time. Somehow the M field acts as a organizing principle like a short of the general maintaining attractions. And the M field doesn't have to move anywhere itself standing energy field that's present everywhere. Once it's created, it exists a universally available pattern throughout the invisible universe. Chaos theory. The next concept of we need to consider in more details is the chaos theory. Non-linear dynamics. Its the first application was in the examination of the weather over the centuries. The studies of it had essential the consciousness that there was no identical pred, predictable methods or mechanism pattern to the whenever the just as it had also been determined that there was no metric, mathematical way to prove when a dripping fracture will drip, or even to explanation how a droplet is formed. Chaos merely means a mass of apathy, meaningless data. For instance, dots in which one can't see anything, any intricate organization pattern. With the advantage of the advanced computer technology, it was discovered there is linear organization pattern could be found by the computer analysis in where what looking the disorganized that which appear to be inheritance actually has a linear code. Such analysis revealed the patterns that often look like a figure 8 folded back upon itself, frequently with the funnel efforts so that the graphic itself has a respectable geographic configuration. What the science has realized is what mystics have climbed throughout the centuries, that the universe is needed the constant undefined and the organized around the unified patterns. Non-linear dynamics has verified that there really is the no chaos in the universe. The appearance of the disorder is merely a function of the limits of perception. This came as the disturbing relevance to the left brain people, but seems self-evident to right brains type creative people merely write a pen sculpture or designing what they already see within their own minds. After all, we don't dance for the logic, we dance from the feelings pattern. We make our out choices from the value, and the values are associated with the instinct pattern. The exact chain of the causality is the commonly understood in the basic science of occurs as the sequence A, B, and C. In this scheme marital diminishes. Nothing is the incredibly free, but only the result of something else is thereby limited. Both what this system is really defined is the world of force a result in the force B, and B and is the transmitted force C with the consequences. D is the D turn becomes the beginning of the another series of chain relations ad infinitum. This is the left brain world. Madness and the predictable. It's the limited paradigm that the conversational science apart from the familiar controllable able to be characterized by the unicreative determinate and the therefore limited by the past. It isn't the world of genius. The world of many feels safe. It's the world of productivity and the prediction, but the creative people, it seems the prediction, prosaic and the unspiritual. It is one thing to conceive, conceive that the Empire State Building is something else to make it happen, to make things happen. Requirement motivation is the derived from the meaning. Therefore, the visible and invisible words are linked through the as we have already diagnostic determined it A, B, and C. Here we see the concept of ABC, which is the within invisible unfolded universe that will activate the emerge into the visible world to result ABC, those visible world created from the invisible world, and it's therefore influenced by the future. The capacity of the invisible concept of the materialized is the based on the power of the original concept itself. We might say that the right brain gets the pattern and the left brain makes it visible. And the ABC may be either a high energy attractor or the low energy attractor. Certain concepts are valuable apparently have a greater power than others. Simply stated, powerful attractors pattern make us go strong and weak patterns make us go weak. Some ideas are so wanking that the merely holding them in mind hardens that subject from the being able to keep his arm up to all. Other concepts are the powerful that when they are held in mind, it's impossible to force down the subject's arm with any amount of extension. This was a universal clinical observation. Powerful patterns are associated with the health, weak patterns are associated with the sickness, disease, and the death. If you hold forgiveness in mind, your arm will be very strong, but if you hold a revenge, your arm will be go weak. For our purpose, it's really once necessary to recognize that power is what makes you go strong, while makes you go weak. Love, composition, and forgiveness, which may be mistakenly through the submissive by some, are in fact profoundly empowering. The revenge in judgmentalist and the conditional, on the other hand, inevitably make you go weak. Therefore, regardless of the moral rightness, its simple clinical facts in the long run, the weak cannot prevail against the strong. That which is weak falls of its own accord. Individuals of the great power of throughout the human history have been those who have totally elegant themselves with the powerful actors. Again and again they have stated that the power they manifest was the known of themselves. Each has the attribute the source of the power to something greater than himself. All of the great teachers throughout the history of our species have merely thought that one thing over and over in whatever language at the whatever time. All have said simply give up weak attractors for the strong attractors. In the examining in the them examining these attractors, will notice that some weak patterns tends to imitate more powerful patterns. These all we call imitate. Thus, the German people under Third Reich were the deceptive by the Pestistrom because they thought it was the Peritromis, the dangerous, or the Chilok tried to the sell as imitator as the real thing. Damages to this end always put for the great deal of the rhetoric. Those who move from the power need say very little. This all is about the chapter 1, part 1. It about the part 1 tool. We we are going to the next part, which is the work, and our next chapter is the power pattern in the human attitudes. How the how the power pattern is building and the how the power pattern is work in the human attitude. we will see about in this chapter. The ability to differentiate between the high and low energy patterns in the matter of the prescription and the description that most of us learn by the painful trial and error, failures, suffering, and the eventual sickness risen from the influence of the weak pattern, success, happiness, and the health process from the powerful attractor patterns. Therefore, it's well worth taking a few minutes to scan the list of the constructor pattern below which have been researched and celebrated to determine their respective criteria. This exclusive list the educational tool operating from the principle of closure, reflection on the many constructive pairs of the qualities can be entity of the consciousness rising process so that one generally become aware of the pattern operating in relationships, business affairs, and all the various interactions that make up fabric of life. On the left are the adjective describing the powerful positive patterns, which is celebrated above the 200 on the right weak negative patterns, which is the celebrated below the 100. Abandon the exclusiveness, accepting, rejecting, admitting, denying, aesthetic, artistic, agreeable, the conceding, the allowing, the controlling, appreciative, the envious, approative, the critical, attractive, the seductive, authoritative, the dogma- dogmatic, aware, the protection, and the blessed, the extreme, beautiful, the glamorous, being, the having, believing, in insensitive, brilliant, the clever, candid, the calculating, carefree, the fireworks, challenge, the impret. Like all of the words, there are many words like this we can say about. Just reading over this list make you different person. Merely to become a acquainted with the difference between these pole beings increase one of the inner power. With this distinction in mind, we will start to notice things we never observed before. The such revolution occurs become as whereas reader will be discovered to the universe force power. Moreover, the universe doesn't forget. There are many sides of the question of karma, but every choice of the who and how to be a choice of the great consequences of all our choices relevant through the ages. Thousands of respect reports of the near death experience as the reflect in the such best selling books as the Daniel Brinkley Saved by the Light or BJ Edited The Embraced by the Light confirm that we shall eventually have acceptance responsibility for the every through the world and deed we generated and will re-experience the exactly the same suffering we have caused it in this sentence that we each created our own heaven or hell. The universe holds its the breath and as we choose instant by the instant which is the pathway to follow for a universe, the very essence of life itself is highly conscious. Every act through and choice adds up. Permanent mistake our decision ripple through the universe of the consciousness to effort the leave of all. Lets this idea be considered considered either merely mystical of the painful. Let's remember that fundamental talent of the new theoretical physics. Everything in the universe is concerned with the everything else. Our choice our choices reinforce the formation of the powerful M field, which are the attractor patterns that influence our others whenever we wish them or not. Every act of the discussion we make that supports all life, including our own. The wrapper was created returns to us. This which may once have a slim metaphysical statement is now essential as the significant fact. Everything in the universe constantly gives off the energy pattern of the specific frequency that remains for all time, and the can be read by those who know how. Every world did an intermission creators of the experimental records. Every every through it is the known and recorded forever. There are no secret, nothing is the hidden, nor can it be. Our spirits stand net in time for all see. Everyone's life finally is accountable by the universe. This is all about this chapter 9. We will learn about some kind of words like we have seen about this, and the power pattern. We learn about this chapter in the power pattern in human attitudes. Like some words we have seen about, like civil is equal to formal, concert the judgmental, considerated the unaware. Like this word equals the superior, free the regardless, regulated, forgiving the resizing, fair the scripting, giving the taking, global, local. Like many words we have seen about, helpful the middling, holistic the analytics, honest the legal. This is the some professional words. Just the punitives, kind the cruel, leading, coaching, loyal, the glutinistic, merciful, the permissive, natural, the artificial, noble, the profound, like etc. There are many words. Open the sarcastic, orderly, the confused, like all. We have seen about this. So we will going to power in politics in our next lecture, and we will going to this chapter in our English learning. So be with us, and thank you for the be with us. Thank you so much.